to Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Good day everyone, I am Janela Intica from BS Ed Math 2A1. So for this video, I will be talking about my learnings and assessment in Learning 1. So let's start with the first discussion. So as far as I have remembered, the first discussion we have is the basic concepts in assessing student learning. And that includes the types of measurement, objective measurement, and subjective measurement. We also talk about the types of evaluation, the modes of assessment, that includes traditional assessment, performance assessment, and portfolio assessment. We also talk about the qualities of good test instrument. It includes first, validity, second, reliability, third, objectivity, fourth is practicality, fifth is efficiency, and lastly is a fairness. And I have also remembered that we discussed about the revised Bloom's taxonomy, in which we tackled about its origin, the categories or levels of revised taxonomy. So we also talk about the verbs in each level and most importantly, the importance of each two categories. So I have also remembered that our teacher discussed about the Krathwohl's taxonomy of objectives and Simpson's psychomotor domain. And if I am right or I have remembered it correctly, so taxonomy of objectives was also known as affective domain, and of course the psychomotor domain of Simpson's. So aside from that, in our assessment in Learning 1, as far as I have remembered also that we discussed about the table of specification, and of course that includes the guidelines or steps. And those guidelines or steps are: first, select a topic. Second is identify the subtopics to be tested. Third is identify the levels of taxonomy that are appropriate to use and review the types of verbs that can be tested each level. Fourth is you need to consider the number of items on the entire test and time available. Fifth is decide the number of items based on span of time. Sixth is distribute each question to each level. So this table of specification was actually very memorable for us because our teacher let us create a table of specification from step 1 to 6 for our midterm exam. So imagine our struggle, our hardships or whatsoever. So but again, it was very memorable and fun because I have learned how to create a table of specification and it adds to my learning. So it was actually, although we find it hard, but at the end of the day, we just find it easy because our teacher discussed it very well. And to proceed, I have also learned about the types of tests. And we have two types. We have the objective test and the subjective test. So for objective test, we have multiple choice of test, true or false test, matching type of test, short answer type of test. We also have the completion. We also have the identification, and lastly, we have the labeling type of test. So for subjective test, I remember that she also put essay test, in which there are also type of essay tests she discussed. And she also mentioned about when to use this kind of test, how to use it, or in what should we use it. So it was actually very important, or this test or type of test was actually very important, especially for us future teachers, so that we will know what kind of test should we use to assess the students. And so to proceed, I have also learned about the DepEd grading system in secondary level, and that includes how to compute a grades. And or how to compute a grades based on the grading system. So honestly, this lesson was actually very important for us future educator because this will serve as our guide in the future. So as a teacher, we will follow a system, and this will be the one we will follow if we are now teaching, especially in DepEd. So we should follow this grading system, and that's why our teacher discussed it very well so that we could understand and we will know how to compute our grades based on the grading system. And lastly, and the most important, is during our finals, in which we learned how to properly create a periodical test based on that table of specifications we created during midterm exam. So if we find it difficult to create a table of specification, especially it was very hard to create a periodical test in which we have to balance those verbs. Like for example, we have a revised taxonomy, right? So we have to balance those verbs. So like for example, multiple choice of test, we have to balance how many numbers should we put for the multiple choice of test. If we will put true or false test, so how many numbers? So we will decide it based on our table of specification created, and especially the verbs. We will base it on the revised Bloom's taxonomy. So it was really difficult, but again, nothing is difficult if you just really wanted to learn. So those are just the things we discussed and I have learned during Assessment in Learning 1 last semester. So overall, those are the lessons that I should never forget and put in mind so that in the future, I already know how to handle students and of course, how to create a periodical test effectively because I really found it difficult that time. So I hope I could enhance my skills more in creating a periodical test of exam. And Assessment in Learning 1 was actually fun and enjoyable. Plus, I have learned a lot of things. So I am also hoping the same thing in Assessment in Learning 2. So I am hoping that it will still be fun, enjoyable, but as well as we will learn a lot of things. Especially, I guess this is a continuation for Assessment in Learning 1. So that would be all. Thank you and God bless.